Hey guys, Haz here at Shield Canine, and we are live. And we are going to be talking about today a topic in relation to training with fear, pain, and violence. According to some of the online dog training experts and luminaries, I train with fear, pain, and violence. So what we're going to do is we're going to explore training with fear, pain, and violence, what that really means, and we're really going to do a deep dive because a lot of people say things like this, and no one really holds them accountable for it. So let's really actually understand what this is. We'll talk a little bit about where this all came from. You know, I did a couple of social media posts that kind of sparked a whole bunch of outrage, from certain spectrum of dog trainers or people that are interested. I use the term dog trainer loosely. Most of them are not by any stretch of the imagination a dog trainer, but they have very strong opinions. So I think we're going to talk about this. I'm just going to make sure that all my technology is working properly here and that everybody's jumping on. And then once I'm sure we got the chat rocking and rolling properly, then we'll move forward. So just give me a second here and we'll give people time to get on the stream, and then we'll start. So the first thing I need to do, it says here that we are live and we are doing well. So I'm just gonna pop that chat out just so I can see it and you guys can see it. And the live chat, that's a little bit too big there. So we'll pop that out. And we'll let that play. And I just want to see some people jump in the chat and let me know that everything's working properly. And once I'm sure that everything's working properly, we'll get after it. We'll talk about some fear, some pain, and some violence. Man, I should make a t-shirt. Fear, pain, and violence. You know, it's pretty, it's got a catch to it, you know. Hello to everybody. I see y'all jumping on here. Excellent. So, let me know if the quality's good, if you guys can hear me, if you guys can see me. And once everything's rocking and rolling, we will get started on this topic. Let me just put this where it belongs. Okay. All right. So we'll talk about how this all started. Well, it didn't really start here, but we'll talk. R Plus Traders already furious with the title. Oh, they've been furious now for a little bit. I'm going to tell you guys where it all started. So I dropped a reel that I kind of sent all over the internet, and predictably it went viral. And the reel was this. This is the reel, okay?
Most people view the Ecaller as a way to suppress undesirable behavior and to correct disobedience. This is a very limited way to view this tool, especially in the context of dog sport, where speed, power, and precision are a priority, where we want cutting-edge performance. You see the collar used here to create more drive and more sharpness and correctness in the behavior. The dog is not suppressed, the dog is active, and the collar is being used frequently to enhance the performance of the dog and magnify the training.
Okay, so this one...
How does your dog...
So this one went wild, right? And I sent this one, I put this one all over the internet. So I knew what would happen, right? Right off the hop, I show my remote, right? I show my remote, I say, you know, I'm going to do some just basic stuff with this dog. This is my dog Chico, by the way. I'm going to do some basic stuff with this dog. And, I'm just going to show me utilizing the Ecaller to reinforce the behaviors. And for those of you that don't understand what that means, a lot of people think reinforcement is an exclusively positive thing. Reinforcement actually comes in two categories. We've got the positive and we've got the negative. The positive reinforcement is the giving of nice things, whether it's food, praise, you know, a toy, something like that. And the negative is the application of pressure and the removal of it when the dog, you know, performs, you know, something that you're asking the dog to perform. So in this video, what I'm doing is, you know, I'm basically negatively reinforcing all the behaviors I'm having him do, and it's creating more sharpness. You can see that he's already an extremely powerful, highly aroused dog, and by utilizing the Ecaller, I'm creating more correctness in the behavior, and I'm channeling all that power into all the things that I'm asking him to do. Now, of course, this caused a lot of people to absolutely lose their mind, right? Because I'm showing the Ecaller, I'm showing a dog.
React to the Ecaller. Most
I'm
people
showing
view the
a dog
Ecaller
that
as
looks like this, right? Active, powerful, right? Anybody that looks at this isn't like your
a
typical
way to
dog.
suppress
Like, this is a
undesirable
full
behavior and to
power
correct
dog, right?
disobedience.
Like you can see he's active,
This is a
he's
very
fast.
limited way
You
to
can
view
see
this
the
tool,
excitement. You can see,
especially
like,
in the context
he's
of dogs.
jumping out of his skin because he's so excited to work with me, right? Now, this is a problem, right? We're going to talk about logical incoherence. So I have a bit of a different outlook when it comes to this. Somebody's already making, you know, better built dogs, but he's putting in quotations. He's obviously imitating some of the things that are commonly said on the internet. But pressure makes dogs stress, and stress is bad. Is it? Right? Does pressure create stress? Yes, it absolutely does create stress. Is all stress bad? Well, I mean, we've had this conversation before. Of course not. Not all stress is bad. There's the kind of stress that increases your performance. It increases your urgency in the performance, especially if you're already motivated to perform, and then there's a pressure aspect there. That pressure in and of itself increases the urgency of the performance. It increases the preciseness of the performance. Don't believe me? Try a little bit of boxing. I always go back to the boxing analogy, right? Keep your hands up. Okay, it's one thing to be told to keep your hands up. It's one thing to know to keep your hands up. But when you don't keep your hands up and you catch one to the side of the head, believe me, all of a sudden you're keeping your hands up and you're a lot more urgent in the doing of that. And that's just one context. You can apply this to all areas of learning, right? There is pressure involved in every aspect of life, whether it's going to work, whether it's you know, doing something fun like playing a game of football. For those of you in Europe, you guys are playing football. Well, guess what? If you don't move in an urgent manner, someone's going to take that ball off of you. If you don't, you know, move with a ton of urgency, you know, you might not score the goal. All of those things are creating stress, right? And, you know, stress isn't inherently bad. Stress is just stress. And used intelligently as part of a holistic training system, it optimizes performance. Now, of course, this whole clip, huge problem for the force-free people. Why? Because they have made all sorts of statements, broad statements. Ecaller creates stress. Ecaller will ruin your relationship with your dog. Ecaller will create fear and anxiety. Ecaller will, you know, shut your dog down. Your dog will hate you. Your dog will be afraid. All of these stories that they have told about the Ecaller, and that the public at large has believed because it's an emotional reaction. Oh, there's electricity in a collar and they're putting it on a dog, right? People who don't know, that just kind of think about it for a second and hear those statements, just believe it's true because it sounds like, oh my God, they must be lighting that dog up. They must be, you know, applying, you know, big electric shocks to this dog. How could that be a good thing? How could that be a productive thing? But now, videos like this where I say, yes, I am using your e-collar. Yes, I am using an e-collar. Right? Yes, I am using an e-collar, but look at the performance. Well, now there's a problem because the stories and the picture that you're seeing aren't lining up, right? They're not lining up. And I see there's some mentally ill people in the chat. Don't worry, I'll get to you in a second, but I'm in the middle of talking. Daddy's talking. I'll talk to you in a little bit. Anyway, very important now. There's a lot of different ways to tackle these people that have mental health issues, right? And believe me, just like all the other various wokeisms and phases that we're going through as a society, you know, boys can be girls and, you know, girls can be cats if they want to be cats and whatever other nonsense you want to come up with. The force-free lobby kind of goes all along with that, right? Like it's in that, it's kind of woke dog training, right? So, yeah, you don't know anything about respect, but don't worry, Daddy will show you respect. Anyways, we're going to talk a little bit now about why
does
this
your
is
dog
a problem.
react
So,
to
like,
the
you got
e-collar?
somebody like,
Most people
let's
view the
say,
e-collar as a
Ivan
way to
Belbel,
suppress
right?
undesirable
Ivan's very
behavior and to correct
he's a nice
disobedience.
guy,
This is
he
a
has the
very limited way to
credibility,
view this tool,
you know, 'cause he's,
especially in the
multiple
context
world
of dog
championships,
sport,
won
where
multiple
speed,
world
power, and
championships.
precision
You know,
are a priority,
he's
where
dog
we
trainer
want
famous,
cutting-edge
right?
performance. You see the
What does
collar
he do?
used here
Well,
to create
he
more drive and
he
more
actually
sharpness
conducts a
and
study,
correctness
right?
in the
He's like,
behavior.
okay, they have
The
their
dog
DS
is not
studies.
suppressed,
What we're
the
gonna
dog
do is
is
we're actually gonna
active,
conduct a
and the
proper
collar
study.
is
We're gonna
being
follow the
used
rules of science.
frequently
We're gonna
to
show,
enhance the
you know,
performance of the
outcomes
dog
that, you
and
know, are
magnify
different
the
than their
trainer.
outcomes, right? And that's
How does your dog
certainly a
react to
very,
the e-collar?
reasonable
Most people view the
thing,
e-collar
right?
as a way to
Video is
suppress
louder than my voice. I
undesirable
didn't know that the
behavior
video was still
and to...
going.
How does your
I thought
dog
it was
react to
muted.
the e-collar?
Sorry, guys. There. Okay. There. Anyways, sorry guys. If the video, if there's ever a problem, yeah, fuck. Okay.
Correct
If there's ever a
disobedience.
problem, let me know. I didn't realize because it's muted on my end. Here, let me just move up. Okay, there we go. Okay. Anyways, so I'm gonna just jump back quickly. All right. So we've got Ivan Balabanov, right? So how's Ivan Balabanov dealing with all of this? He's, you know, making studies, right? He's partnered with some researchers. He's done some studies, and he's showing, you know, what everybody who already trains and has common sense already knew, that you know, balanced training creates the most reliable results. But regardless, that's one way, and that's an important thing to do. And I'm not denigrating that. I think that's a very important thing to do. But I've chosen to go about it a different way. Because these people deny common sense. They deny what your very eyes show you. They deny what your very eyes tell you, right? Instead, what they do is they make all sorts of they use all sorts of emotional language. They make up all sorts of tall tales and talk on and on about imagined harm. This is going to happen. That's going to happen if you do this. And they basically scare people, right? And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start making fun of these people. Like, I've always kind of made fun of them, but now I'm going to kind of make it a little bit, I'm going to take time out of my day to do it, right? So this video is just an example of showing you, hey, these stories they're telling you don't work. Look at the dog, right? This dog is full power. This dog shows a high level of motivation and arousal to do this thing. This dog shows a high level of correctness. All these stories about the e-collar, not true. Now, this is the one that really kind of broke the camel's back, so to speak.
Believe your eyes. It's 2024, and the biggest experts out there on dog training have
Right,
been...
guys, let me just... here we go.
Just on my way to ruin my relationship with my dog because I train with pain, fear, and violence. If someone could just tell him to stop being so happy, that would be great. I don't think he knows he's being abused. Anyways, folks, in case you can't tell, this is sarcasm. Stop believing all the pseudo experts and the pseudo science that's perpetuated on the internet. Believe your eyes. It's 2024, and the biggest experts out there on dog training have been and always will be the dogs.
So exactly, right? This is the whole point, right? I'm just going to make fun of them because I think really what we need to do is we need to start laughing at these people. They usually have the logic and the logical coherence, you know, of maybe a preteen girl, right? There's not a lot going on there. And when you really examine it and when you really kind of hold them accountable for the things that they say, it all falls apart. It all just kind of goes to hell in a handbasket, so to speak. So again, what am I saying?
Trust your eyes. Don't believe what...
Right? I'm saying that, yeah, okay, I'm going to abuse my dog. And of course I started without the e-collar on because if, again, following their presuppositions, this dog should be miserable, right? We're walking out there, he sees me holding the e-collar, or at least he should be avoiding me. He should be running from me, right? And he's not, because he loves doing what we do. And he understands that when I put the strap on his neck, that's one of the signals that we get going, right? But what happens, right? He's happy. He's like, hey, man, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Videos like this are a huge problem for this, right? Like, videos like this are a huge problem for these people because it shows exactly the opposite of what they say, right? So, of course, this went viral and it caused a whole bunch of problems, right? Because everybody's upset, all sorts of, you know, things, but the vast majority of people understand, right? They're like, what the heck? Look how happy that dog is. Look how excited that dog is. Look how much that dog wants to work with the handler. So now you see people coming up with alternative excuses, right? Before it was, if you use the Ecaller, it's going to do X, Y, and Z. And by the way, the reason why I'm talking about the Ecaller, guys, is because the Ecaller is a focal point for these types of people, the force-free lobbyists, the positive-only trainers, the animal rights people, right? These people, the Ecaller, because it's an electric collar, is the focal point, right, for this, you know, kind of warfare of ideas, right? Now, of course, one idea has a scientific basis, one idea has actual observable results, and the other idea is just stories. In the past, stories worked well, because if your story was backed up with, let's say, I don't know, a doctorate in some, you know, obscure topic, or you were a vet, right? As if a vet would know anything about dog training, or, you know, you were a bachelor's of animal behavior, as if you would learn how to train dogs in a university, right? This would become meaningful. Like, people would ascribe a lot of value to an expert, you know, if they had some letters behind their name, so on and so forth. Of course, when you're looking at dog trainer, it's kind of like if you wanted to get your horse trained. I wouldn't look for someone that had a doctorate in horse training. I would go and find someone who's, whatever it is that they're doing in relation to horses, you know, that they're doing, like, let's say I wanted to do show jumping. I'm going to go find the guy who's, you know, coached show jumping at a high level, who's competed himself at a high level. You know, if I want a dog that's, a horse that's going to be good generally, I'll go find like a Western trainer that's really good at, you know, training ranch horses, stuff like this. I'm not going to go find like a vet to go and teach my horse to do stuff. I'm not going to go to a horse behaviorist. No, I'm going to go to a guy that's their expertise, because they actually got, you know, hours and hours in the saddle and hours doing groundwork, like thousands and thousands of hours, right? It's the same with dogs. For some reason, that idea hasn't fully carried over to dogs, and I think it's because with dogs, because they're smaller, like with horses, you can't really afford a lot of, shall we say, imagination, right? Like, you can either ride on the horse or not. If what you're doing doesn't work, the horse is going to kill you, you know? The horse is going to throw you off. The horse isn't going to do the things that it needs to do. Versus with dogs, we can kind of make up stories more. People keep them in the backyard, you know, they don't ever let them out. They keep them on an easy walk harness for the rest of their lives, you know. They can make up stories about things their dogs do, but they never really actually have to show it, right? Here's the thing now, right? Like, now the cat is out of the bag. It's 2024. Everybody has a video camera. And those of us that actually do, and those of us that actually know, need to start showing more and more and more. And a lot of us have shown. But this type of stuff, right? This type of stuff where we're like, yeah, here's what we're doing, right? Here's what we're doing. This is optimized performance, right? Look how happy this dog is. They say the dog's going to be miserable. It's not miserable. They say the dog's going to be afraid. He's not afraid, right? So now what you see them doing is the logical incoherence. What are they doing? They're moving the goalposts now, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, you'll see in the comments, if you go through the comments, well, any dog, even if you kick him every day, he's still going to love you. But wait a second. Okay, so you're saying if I abuse my dog every day, he's still going to love me. All right, fair enough. How come you didn't say that earlier? You said if I correct my dog, I'm going to ruin my relationship with my dog. If I correct my dog's not going to want to work for me. Now you're saying I abuse him and he'll love me no matter what. I'm still an abuser, but he's going to love me no matter what. I'm sorry, you just moved the goalpost. That doesn't make any logical sense with all the other stories you were telling, right? So you're saying I'm going to abuse him, he's still going to be happy to work with me, he's still going to love me. But that's not the story you were telling 5 seconds ago. So the story has now changed. Or you'll see things like, oh, somebody put, I see an addict who's willing to endure anything for his next fix. But again, this isn't coherent with the story that we've been told. The dog won't want to work with you. The dog, you know, the dog is going to hate you. So, okay, so now he's willing to work with me and endure me in order to get his fix. So what's his fix? The training? Right? Because I guarantee you, if I was just beating on him, he's not going to want to do that. And anybody, if you try to explain to any logical person, hey, you can beat your dog every day, he's going to love to work with you. Of course not. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to anybody that has an ounce of logic. So now you see the goalposts being moved. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the kind of person, right? Here's the thing that you'll see. So of course, you'll see a lot of crazy people in the remarks making some comments. But I'm going to focus on one person because I think this one person kind of represents a lot of the critics, right? And I think she actually represents the best of the critics, to be honest with you. Let's see here. So this is a Miss Beryl Owen. This is what I'm saying. Off lead, it seems you're unable to train and control your dog without putting a shock collar on. Yes, of course he's going to do it when you put it on, as he will get zapped. Well, we started with it off, but so he ran to me to put it on so he could get zapped so he could do it. Okay, fair enough. That's your assertion. All right. So what are you going to do when they are banned everywhere? Well, they won't be banned everywhere because we have a very strong hunting lobby in North America. And it turns out a lot of politicians like to do that upland bird hunting, and they like the e-collars. So unlikely it's going to be banned everywhere, especially since the political pendulum is also switching. Maybe in 10 years, what am I going to do? I'm going to do the same thing as all those people in Europe do. I'm going to keep doing what I do, just like they keep doing what they're doing, right? But you don't understand, Beryl, but we'll get into it a little more here. It is coming in, so you can't train your dog now without it. What are you going to do then? Don't worry, Beryl. Again, I know you don't understand what an e-collar is and what you use it for, but we'll be fine. My dog will heal perfect like that too without using one. Okay, so Beryl has said that her dogs will do what my dog does. This is Chico von Marchberger. Okay, IGP 3. Okay, competed at nationals, right? Hold on, let's quickly look up Chico here. So Beryl's dog does what Chico does. Okay. All right. Let's see. Can I find his nationals footage? Where's our nationals? Oh, misspelled. Chico. There we go.
All right, guys.
Oh, this is my Reacts footage. Hold on. All right. So this is the blind search. We'll get past the blind search. We don't need to spend too long there. We'll just get right down to the dog doing his protection routine. All right? And I'll talk. Anybody who knows Chico knows what this dog is and what this dog is capable of. They know that this dog is an extremely driven German Shepherd of the highest quality, right? So she says that she can do all the same things that Chico can do, right? I'm not even going to show the obedience right now. Now let's go and see what Beryl's up to. So I happen to, sometimes I'll do this. When people hate, right? I'll be like, who is this person? So I click the profile and I'll say, oh, okay, like what kind of obedience are we talking about here? Well, it turns out Beryl's got some examples of her work. So apparently her dog will do all the same things Chico will do. Nice big show dog. So number one, we're not even dealing with remotely the same level of drive, not that it particularly matters. So guys, this is the same level according to Beryl. And I say that she's the best of them because she actually has a dog and does something, right? Even though she's terrible. Like, look at this. Absolutely awful. Like, just like this is like low-level pet dog training. But these are the critics. This is the best of the critics, right? Like, there are no critics that are better than this. Like, most of them don't even have a dog that will do anything, right? This is what Beryl does. This is in her backyard too, right? Like, we're not even talking about trial footage. Like, guarantee it, she never trialed, right? She's never made an IGP3. She's never done anything at a top level. She's never shown at a World, right? But this is the top level, right? And I'm giving her the props that she is probably the best of the critics, right? And she's talking on, she's got the dog, she's dragging him around on the leash, she's using tons of handler help to get him to do like anything. And he's just kind of walking with her, right? This is the top level, right? This is the same as Chico. Like, anybody with half a brain knows that they are not the same, right? This is not the same. This is a little pet dog that she's playing with in the backyard. And this is the top level of training. You'll never see her at a trial, by the way. If you ever see her at a trial, right, you will see that that dog's not even with her because you're not allowed to do all that handler helping. And can you imagine, guys, I want you to understand, this she thought was good enough to put on video. So this is like the best example. Like she thought this was good enough to put on the video, right? Like look, trying to make a finish. Oh, maybe if I drag him by the leash, right? That doesn't seem very positive to me. Okay, oh, let me pet him a lot. Maybe he'll remember how to do it next time. Oh, holding the ball in the wrong hand so he looks across my body and forges. Again, these are the experts that are critiquing you, right? These are the experts that are talking. All right, have you guys seen enough of Beryl's fantastic work? So this is Beryl talking about a shock collar. Beryl, what will you do when you have to take the leash off your dog? Because I guarantee you, my dear, he's not staying with you, especially if there's any level of distraction. What are you gonna do, Beryl, when you have to make an IGP3? It looks like you do German show dogs. So I assume you probably send them to Germany for the title. Actually, no, what they did in Australia, she's in Australia. What they did in Australia, the show club, right? And by the way, I just wanna make it clear, that was the only training footage I could find on Beryl's profile. So that was like the best of the best, right? And I say again, guys, she is the best of them. Most of them don't even have that much, right? So this is exactly what what I'm talking about. Tiger Talks, I see you continuing to help my the algorithm. Please do me a favor. Just put a video of your training there in the chat, a link. I'll pop it up and we'll talk about what you can do. By all means, put it in there and we'll talk about it. All right? I know you're desperate for attention. You're desperate for some validation. I'll give it to you today. I'm feeling magnanimous. All right. Anyways, so guys, it's important we start saying, hey guys, like show us what you do, right? And like even if it's in your backyard, show me something. Show me something that you do, right? We don't have to talk about what I'm doing in a trial. We don't have to talk about like, okay, a high level of command and control. We don't have to talk about what I did at the World Championships, right? And I'm talking about what I did because people are questioning, okay, well, what have you done? When the e-collar is gone, what do you do? Well, that's pretty well documented. You can find me on Google. You can see all the things that I've done with and without an e-collar. And again, the reason I use the e-collar, guys, right, in terms of we make the discussion around the e-collar is because the e-collar is the focal point. Pressure is pressure, right? Whether you make your pressure with a leash, whether you make your pressure with a choke chain, pinch collar, your hand, your foot, whatever it is. Pressure is just pressure, okay? At the end of the day, how are you able to apply that pressure in a way that is meaningful for the dog and in a way that optimizes performance? How are you able to balance that pressure with motivation? Right? In order to achieve that pinnacle of performance where the dog is giving you everything he can give you. I'm talking about optimization of performance. A lot of people are like, oh, you can't train without an e-collar. It's like, silly. I'm showing you optimized performance. We're not talking about can the dog heel. We're saying how good can the dog heel? How much power can the dog invest into that healing, right? We're not talking about if the dog can heel, right?
And always will be the dog.
I'll give you guys an example, right? So, for instance, these videos here. I made some little videos with my little black female, and I didn't put an e-collar on her, right? Not because I don't train with an e-collar. I train with an e-collar all the time, right? It optimizes performance. But because I knew it would distract from the message here. The message is I'm giving people some simple tips on, how to optimize, their front or their healing. And you'll see that the dog performs the same with or without the e-collar on, right? Because again, a lot of habituation. The e-collar did not teach her to heel. If you think you're gonna put an e-collar on a dog and make healing like this, good luck to you. If you think you're gonna put an e-collar on a dog and you're gonna make a plots like that, good luck to you. That's not how it works. The e-collar is simply pressured, layered over, right? And you see there, pressure to the sit. You saw how fast the dog went, right? E-collar is just a performance optimizer. right? It magnifies your ability as a trainer, just like a leash, any other device. But the Ecaller is 2024, right? It's wireless. I can reach anywhere and make a graduated amount of pressure. Here's the other thing. A lot of these people, funny, a lot of these people that are against the Ecaller, right? I had one guy going on about, oh, in the Netherlands, they wouldn't let you in the dog club. Yeah, because in the Netherlands, yeah, the Ecaller is banned. But guess what? They use good old this and good old that, right? Kick, punch, hit him with the leash, right? The old ways, before they had more advanced pressure and release devices like the Ecaller, right? It's not a good thing, right? This is advanced pressure and release training, right? Escape avoidance training, as they call it, right? It works very well, but you don't use it by itself. You use it in combination with a lot of other different tools and systems, right? It's simply part of the process. If that's all you do, escape avoidance, will you train the dog? Yeah, for sure. Are you going to have an optimized performance? No, of course not, right? All right. Anyways, let me get into the chat a little bit. Let's see if Tiger Talks has posted a video of his training. Nope, no surprise there. Yeah, I say him, maybe it's a her, I don't know. What did he say? Okay, hold on. There's so much nonsense, I gotta just scroll here. Blah, blah, blah. If you go through trials, eventually you'll get a title. LOL. The dog he has in that video isn't even high drive. The aggression work is just medium. When you have a German bro, this dog is probably one of the highest drive German Shepherds in Canada. And anybody who actually is serious in IGP knows who this dog is and what this dog is. it's absolutely, again, like this is the kind of people you deal with, right? Like never been on a trial field. He'll never step on an IG field. And I'm assuming it's a guy, I don't know. It kind of, to me, sounds like a very feminized man, like somebody, maybe the testosterone's a little bit low, the estrogen's high, struggling. And I understand. And that's why he's in my chat talking to me. If you don't like, listen, if I didn't like something somebody was doing, you know what I wouldn't do? I wouldn't be on their channel commenting on their live 1,000 times, right? I'd be off doing something productive. But, when somebody has no life, that's what they're doing, right? Anyways, go sit on this basic obedience trainer that uses a shock collar on his mediocre dogs. Oh, yes, mediocre dogs, right. I don't recall seeing you at the World Championship or the Nationals or the Regionals, any of the two regionals that I was at this year. I don't know, maybe you can refresh my memory. Just put your name down there in the chat. Next time I see you at a trial, you can show me all about your top tier training. Oh, I'm not a dog trainer. I trained one dog with 8 advanced titles. All right. Okay. And see, again, guys, like this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. Like this is the average person. Like this loser right here can't even do what that barrel woman did, right? Like this for him is advanced. Like this stuff, this is probably for him an extreme drive dog. I can't do more than this, right? Like this is for him top level, right? Like, so what I'm doing for him is like just completely beyond the pale. No understanding. So what I'm saying, guys, is that there is a logical fallacy that's inherent in the very fabric of their ideologies. And the only way that we're going to break this is by making stuff like this, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to abuse my dog, doing the things that you say are going to cause all sorts of bad side effects. Oh shit, look, dog's really happy. I've titled him multiple times. Oh, he was on the podium at the Quebec Regional Championship. By the way, for those of you that don't know, with the Ecaller, you don't get to wear an Ecaller. You don't get to have a ball when you trial an IGP. And the reason why I bring up IGP is not real life, right? But IGP is a sport in which you have to demonstrate across 3 phases: tracking, obedience, and protection with 0 tools in the trial, optimized performance. He has to track in a certain way. He has to do protection in a certain way. He has to do obedience in a certain way. And he has to do it at an optimum level, especially to have any level of success, right? And that's with no tools, with no reward, with nothing. So I like to bring it up because I think it's a good barometer for where you are as a trainer and if what you do actually works. And that's why, you know, people like this will never be on the trial. They won't even be in a shouting distance of a trial field. And if they are, it's a joke, right? It's like, oh my God, that was embarrassing. You know, everybody's going to go and maybe have a smoke and a coffee while we wait for the pain to be over, and then we can get on to maybe some good dogs doing some good training, right? But anyways. Look at this. I'll say one more thing. Keep selling your BS to novices. Yeah, that's who I train with. A lot of novices. Maxim says, how do you feel about dogs pick up and playing with sticks? I worry about a high drive puppy injuring himself. I've been redirecting with a ball. How do you handle it? Depends how high drive it is, you know? If the dog is extreme in the drive, then yes, I wouldn't allow it because they can penetrate the roof of their mouth with the stick and actually seriously injure themselves. If it's not, right, the case where like the dog's like, just kind of medium in the drive, I wouldn't worry about it. It's not a thing. Oh, by the way, let's talk about this. Fear is not respect, because this is a common thing. Even though this, you know, person obviously doesn't train dogs and knows nothing about what they're talking about. This is fear. Okay, fear is not respect. Is that fear? What the dog is just playing there. Now, don't get me wrong. Just as my children have an element of, just as I have an element of fear, well, I had an element of fear to my father when I was a child. It was contingent, right? It was contingent fear. It wasn't a generalized fear, right? Contingent fear is definitely part of respect. If the dog has no fear of the consequence for misbehaving, then they don't have a respectful relationship with you, right? Now, that can't be the only ingredient of a relationship. So think about respect, right? I respected my father, right? I respected him because A, he loved me, he looked after me, he gave me all the things that, you know, I needed to get as I was growing up, including love, attention, play, but also discipline. There was behavior that I knew if I exhibited this behavior, this will make him upset. This will displease him, and there will be a consequence, whether that consequence was a timeout or a physical consequence, right? Depending on my age and, you know, exactly what I did. Obviously, there's a level of, you know, things that are unacceptable from minor to major, right? But the spectrum of consequence was, oh, you lose privileges to a physical consequence, right? That's where I grew up. Like I grew up in that era where that was still allowed to some level and was still normal to some level. Now it's not so common anymore, right? Now, for my mother, right, believe it or not, still there was a potential physical consequence, but I wasn't concerned about that because the reality is, you know, relatively soon in your life, you know, as a man, you get to an age and size where it's like, you know, not much mom can really do to you, but the fear was of displeasing her because of the emotional ramifications of it, right? There had to be an element of fear. Of course, love, care, nurturing, attention that was positive, but then also there was fear involved, right? Of, hey, if I do this thing that she really wouldn't want me to do, there's going to be a consequence that I don't like, right? Whether it's her reducing her positive attention towards me, whether it's her taking a privilege away from me. So this idea that fear is not respect, no, fear is actually an inherent part of respect. And all my dogs, let me be very clear here, all my dogs, right, every one of my dogs and children, right, have an element of contingent fear in our relationship. Just as I have contingent fear in my relationships with anybody that I respect as well, including my wife, right? Am I worried my wife's going to do something physical to me? Of course not, right? But I love my wife. I care for my wife, and there are certain behaviors I know she would perceive as completely unacceptable. So, you know, does the fear have to be related to something physical? No, of course not, right? But I think you guys can all understand what I'm saying. All respect, this idea that you can just bribe dogs into respecting you, absolute nonsense. Completely not true at all. And you know anybody that does this, their dog doesn't listen to them whatsoever. Their children don't listen to them whatsoever. We see it all the time. What is it? Gentle parenting, they call it now, right? The kids don't have any respect for the parents. They don't listen to the parents. There's no modicum of discipline or any kind of control with the kids. And it's the same with the dogs, right? And the reason why people say, well, why do you need to control them? Well, because just like children, they act based on instinct. Unlike children, they're very strong, they're very fast, and they can do a lot of damage, again, depending on the dog, or to themselves, or to someone else, or to something else. So having a level of control, right, that's inherent in a respectful relationship with that being is obviously essential to success. And anybody that thinks about it for a second logically can come to that conclusion, right? So this idea that fear is not respect, no, but this whole idea is, does the e-collar create fear? Because that's the presupposition. Oh, he's afraid of you, that's why he listens to you. Well, anybody with eyes to see know that the dog is not afraid of me. That's not actually the foundation under which he listens. He does know that there are certain behaviors I won't allow. Contingent fear. Again, if you guys want to understand the concept of contingent fear, I always go back to the hot stove analogy. Every one of us cooks with a stove, right? Every one of us uses a stove in our daily life. Every one of us has been burned by a stove, right? But does that create a generalized fear of the stove? No, because we understand that it's contingent, right? The fear is contingent on, if I touch the stove when it's hot, it hurts. But if I don't touch the stove, no problem, and I can actually have a productive relationship with the stove. I will cook food on the stove, I will clean the stove, I'll fry things and heat things and whatever I need to do on the stove. But there are certain things I cannot do around the stove. Do I have some fear of doing those things? Of course. I don't want to touch the hot element, so I'm going to be extra careful, even if it's an unconscious fear. I don't go to the stove consciously afraid of it, but I have an unconscious fear around the stove of, hey, if I do this, I'm going to get burned, so I better not do that, right? And that's a healthy fear. That's a productive fear. There's a reason why we experience fear as human beings and as animals, right? It's something that allows us to navigate our way through life, through interpersonal relationships and through the environment, right? It allows us to avoid harm. And harm is not just environmental. Harm is not just falling off of a cliff. Harm is not just walking into traffic, right? Harm is interpersonal. We're intensely social beings, as are dogs. And dogs have been domesticated for thousands of years in order to be social with us, in order to work closely with us. So our relationship with them is extremely important to their survival. We've bred it into them for thousands of years. So that dog having contingent fear, right, based on, hey, if I do this thing, like, I don't know, go and attack that other dog, my handler's going to be very upset with me, and there is consequence attached to that that's very unpleasant. Well, now his desire, if he's so oriented to go and attack that other dog, is going to be overridden by his concern for the consequence of doing so. You think you're going to sit down and explain to Fluffy, hey man, you know that thing you like to do? By the way, when I first got Chico, he liked to go after other dogs, right? Hey man, that thing you do where you go after other dogs and you try to kill them, not okay. Don't do it anymore. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works, right? Doesn't work with kids, doesn't work with dogs, which are much lower in the level of cognition. So anyways, again, all of these things, when you expose them, right? Like when you look at these like little sayings like, fear is not respect, right? Oh, okay, like sounds a little bit like, oh, that's a little catchy, that, oh, emotionally it's appealing. But then when you drill down and you actually apply logic beyond that of a 12-year-old, child to it, right? Now you're like, oh, okay, actually that doesn't actually make any sense whatsoever. And that doesn't stand up to any kind of logical evaluation or cross-examination, right? And then of course you say, okay, well, who said it? Oh, this person that, unfortunately is, not doing very well mentally said it, and they don't train dogs. So why are we listening to them about the dog training, right? Case in point. All right, guys, I'm going to try and go through some of these comments, and then we'll see what we see. Tiger, I'm going to just say this to you. If you comment any more because you failed to post any training footage, I'm going to ban you forever. So don't post anymore. Just sit there quietly and listen. If you can't do that, I will just ban you forever because you're kind of cluttering up the chat, and I'm trying to read things that people that actually have some value to give are saying. So unfortunately, we're going to have to put an end to your silliness for now. I'll let you talk on the next one, okay? If you're a good boy. See, guys? Contingent punishment. All right. Let's see. Patricia says, hey, Has, steady on the vet thing. I'm a vet and I'm here learning so I can better advise my clients. Balance trainers are insurance quality. Patricia, I have all the respect in the world for the 8 or 9 years of school it takes to become a vet. It's a very specific talent that we need. We need people that can give the antibiotics. We need people that can do the surgeries. I've used all of them, and I have a couple of vets that I work with that are fantastic. I'm talking about vets in relation to training, right? Vets in relation to training. If you're a good dog trainer and you're also a good vet, that's fantastic. But being the vet did not make you a good dog trainer, right? Those are separate skill sets. If you happen to acquire both in your life, big accomplishment, all the credit to you. So I have no problem with like vets just because they're vets. I do have a problem with vets pretending that, their medical degree entitles them to speak about, dog behavior and dog training, because it surely does not provide you any level of what I would consider to be even a basic proficiency in that. That includes veterinary behaviorists as well. Unfortunately, same. They might understand some fundamental concepts like, oh, I know what operant conditioning is. I know what classical conditioning is. But knowing what those things are and actually seeing them applied through thousands and thousands of hours on a leash are two very different things. What else we say? Sorry guys, just going through all of these comments. Sarah B says, I have a severely reactive dog. No force-free trainers would take him. They told me to put him down. Very force-free. He trained at Shield Canine with an Ecollar, and 6 years later, he's living a happy off-leash life. Oh, Sarah. Well, I'm happy to hear it. I'm glad that things are going well. Again, it's like we have videos. I think my YouTube channel is very old. It's been around for a long period of time, right? It's been around for a long period of time. So you can see like years of training on there. And you can see a lot of client dogs and pet dogs. At the end of the day, the most important thing is quality of life, right? And quality of life doesn't come with taking 10 years to train a dog to come when it's called. It comes with expediting the training process, right? Expediting the training process is essential to the quality of life of the dog. It's like if a dog was in pain, right? And I believe a lack of freedom and a lack of mental balance is pain. It's the same thing as if someone said, listen, my dog, I don't know, he has like some affliction, some ailment, and it's paining him, it's ruining his quality of life, it's making him uncomfortable, it's reducing the things that he can do, right? Such as a lack of training or a behavioral issue that's presenting a danger to the dog or to the public at large, right? For me, this is an essential thing to fix as fast as possible. This is not something to wait around with. It's not something to take 5 years to kind of half-ass figure out. This is something where we need to expedite the process and get the owner and the dog into a place of success as fast as possible, right? Success is the owner having reliable obedience and control over the dog, because this is going to enable the owner to do more things with the dog and thus give the dog more freedom. Success is removing and creating a reduction and or preferably an extinction in the undesirable behavior so the dog is no longer a safety risk to the public or to his or herself. Anybody, by the way, it's funny when people see me like with my dog at a trial or something. Everybody comes, oh man, like you must have such a fantastic relationship, so on and so forth. And I always think that's kind of amusing. I do have a good relationship with my dogs because they understand the boundaries of our relationship. What makes a good relationship with a dog? This is a good question, right? I think the dog should fundamentally enjoy interacting with you. Okay, check. My dogs love fundamentally interacting with me. Otherwise, they wouldn't do all the amazing things that they do for me. They wouldn't have got me to all the amazing places that I've gotten to, right? And every year, thank God, I get to do more with them, you know, including, like I said, most recently, we went to Croatia and we finished top 10 in the world. Fantastic experience. My dog gave me that experience. He gave me that experience because he fundamentally enjoys the interaction and the work that we do with one another, and it's not exclusively contingent on tools or toys, right? Or bribery. It's the interaction. We've done it so much together, and it's been such a overall positive experience for him that he enjoys it more than absolutely anything else, right? I leave him at home now because, you know, I don't like overtraining. So I'm focusing on my other dogs right now. And he stays at home with my kids and my wife. And he loves that. And he loves them. But every time I leave, man, he's at the door. Like, he doesn't want me to leave him behind, right? He loves coming out with me, even though he knows the vast majority of the day I'm going to be doing other things. I'm going to be working with other dogs or doing office work. And he's going to be in the kennel. And he will still prefer, instead to lie around the house and to hang out with the kids and the wife, he'd still rather come and go sit, you know, in a crate in the back of my side-by-side and wait for that 1 or 2 10-minute sessions I'll do with him through the day, right? And I'm like, no, bro, you've done a lot, you've done too much, you know, you finished top 10 in the world, stay home for a little bit, stay home for a few months, I'll start taking you out again, you know, when we start building up towards the next season. And for him, he's like, no, you know, he's like at the door every day, like he wants to come, right? That's a relationship, right? A relationship is, I can say, good boy, and his tail starts going a mile a minute, and he's on me wanting to do stuff. A relationship is saying, don't do that, and he says, ooh, okay, I better not do that because daddy said don't do it. That's a relationship. It's a balanced experience. It's a holistic thing. It's not a, oh, he just loves me no matter what all the time. No, that's not a relationship, and that's not realistic. And most of the people that say that actually don't have that, because the first time their dog has an opportunity to pick either them or the environment, unless the dog is like generally a fearful dog and is afraid to interact with the environment, the dog always picks the environment and goes and engages with the environment over the handler. No relationship. All right, what else we got here? Gregory Silas, the biggest problem with this conversation is if you want to talk about nuts and bolts of dog training, they want to talk about emotions. Not the dog's emotions, but their own. That's very true, Gregory. And the reason why is because they don't really understand emotions, right? So like, let me see if I can find it. I didn't queue it up, but let me see if I can find it. Okay. I'm trying to find my obedience. Here, I'll pull up my obedience from Quebec, okay? It's not as good as the CWDF was. Okay. So, actually, I'll let this play, and then I'm going to see if I can pop up my, sorry guys. I'll let this play, and I'm going to see if I can pop up my, so there's my dog, no e-collar, there's no ball on me, there's no nothing, and we're going to go and now compete at the Canadian, Quebec Regional Championship, right? Look at the drive the dog is in, look at the engagement that the dog is in, right? You want to talk about emotions? Look at the dog. This is an emotion, right? That's an emotion. Look at the emotion of the dog. Let's just forward it. Oh no, I don't have an e-collar on. What's going to happen, right? This is why I like IGP, because it forces you. It's like, you have to not only just do it, you have to do it the best, you know, or you have to do it at a high level. All right, there's my dog. No e-collar, no ball. He's not stupid, by the way. He knows he's not wearing an e-collar. He knows he's not wearing a ball. That's the emotion he's in. Let's get ahead here. There. There he is, just hating his life, right? It was a 35-degree day that day, right? Let's see if I can find that stand in motion. That stand in motion was money. Look at that stand in motion. Look at his emotion, right? They talk about emotion. How's that for emotion, right? And that's on a hot day, tons of distractions around, strange field, right? No reward, no correction, right? And, you know, he did something, what he did here, he did similar at the world level, right? He was actually not as full power at the world level, well, he was more full power, but I made a handling mistake here on the dumbbell retrieve at the world level, right? But still, like, same energy, happy, active, powerful dog. Nice finish. Anyways, you guys get the point, right? I have tons of video like that. That's emotion. Don't talk about emotion. You guys don't understand emotion. They don't understand how to actually use emotion in a meaningful way that creates, you know, a powerful emotional response. For them, emotion is happy, right? And there's so much more to a dog than just happy. Happy is part of it, but I'm looking for active arousal. That's a different level of emotion that they will never experience because they don't balance their training properly, right? That's one thing, you know, it's funny. I'll tell you guys a little thing that I discovered. I'll give it, so one of the things that I do is after a trial, I'll run an entire section, right? I'll run an entire session with my dog. And the first thing that my dog will get after a trial in a training session is his ball. He won't get the Ecaller, he won't get a correction of any kind, he will get his ball. And one thing I noticed was they love the ball, don't get me wrong. Both my dogs, whether it's him, Chico, or any of the other dogs I've trained, they love the ball. But the level of drive you saw when you brought back in the negative reinforcement from, let's say, the Ecaller or something else was higher even than the ball, right? The drive and the performance went up more than just with the ball. You think, oh, okay, like he got his ball back, now he's going to be like full power. No, he was more powerful when the negative reinforcer came back, not the positive reinforcer. He still was happy with the positive reinforcer, but the level was much higher when the negative reinforcer was present, right? So these people, you don't need it, you don't need it. It's not about need it. We're talking about optimizing performance, right? Those are two different things. Optimizing performance is important. A lot of people say, oh, it's just a sport. It's just a dog sport. It doesn't matter, right? I always say, no, it certainly does matter, right? Because dog sport is where we optimize performance. And why is optimizing performance good? Think about why optimizing performance might be good, right? If I can performance, when we're competing, when we're competitive as a human race, whether it's in war, whether it's in, you know, technology, whatever area that you can look at where, you know, we as human beings make, productive leaps, right? Where we grow and develop our knowledge and our technology and our understanding of things so that we can do them better, more efficiently, so on and so forth. There's competition involved. Oh, we need to come up with something before the other company does, or they're going to put us out of business. Oh, we need to come up with something before the other country does, or they're going to defeat us in war and take these resources or take this land from us, right? Whatever it is that you can think of, right? Dog sport is the same. So much of the training innovations that we as dog trainers enjoy now, so many of the things people take for granted, like marker training, for instance, or clickers, or, you know, a lot of the things that we take for granted, right, are the use of these things has been refined. The things that you think, oh yeah, like everybody knows to use a marker like this, everybody knows to reward like this, everybody knows to use the e-collar like this or the leash like that. These things were refined and developed in the cauldron of competition that is dog sport. So dog sport encourages the development of cutting edge training, which is essential whether we're talking about service dogs, police dogs, protection dogs, pet dogs, right? This is the area in which we refine cutting edge training techniques and prove them on the field of competition, right? Does this work? Well, if it works, you're going to win. If it doesn't work, you're not going to win, right? The proof is going to be in the pudding, right? Nothing does that like dog sport. And that's why dog sport is so important. It's so essential to the overall success of dog training in general, to the overall development of dogs, the breeding of dogs, right? We're always looking to breed the most powerful dogs, the most active dogs, the most biddable dogs, the most healthy dogs, so that they can be successful, right? And those dogs then become what? Police dogs, military dogs, so on and so forth. So the cauldron of competition is essential to all development that we as a human race make, whether it's in technology, breeding, training, whatever you want to think about. Evening, guys. Sorry, I see y'all jumping on here. So Ricky Moore asks, when's your next core sale? I actually don't know because I'm not in charge of that, so I can't speak to that. Ryan Torres says, hello, Haz. Is it necessary to become part of a club as a dog trainer? Could you share a bit of your experience? No, it's definitely not necessary. I'm not a member of a club. I mean, what kind of trainer do you want to be? If you want to be a pet dog trainer, you know, you can go and seek the necessary knowledge and start, you know, engaging in that. Or, you know, you can go and do something else, right? Like, it depends. Like, if you want to be involved in dog sport, you don't even need to be a member of a club. You know, can it be helpful? Depends on the club that you're a member of. But you don't need to be, right? I'm one that I don't do too well in a club environment. I do better when I'm kind of with a small private group of people that we all kind of see eye to eye on things. We share common goals and we enjoy spending time together. That's my environment. Some people thrive in the club environment. That's their thing, you know? All right. Valerie Prescott said, had a West German Showline returned, was aggressive and reactive with the former owner. This dog was trained professionally a lot, but I think what damaged the dog was it was an Ecaller at 4 months old. Yeah, I mean, that sounds certainly quite young. Pup came back with sores on his neck. The presence of sores on the neck are not necessarily an indicator of abuse. It's an indicator of neglect. Whether you leave a bark collar or an e-collar too long, it can create sores just from the contact, right? It's not actually from the use of it, contrary to popular belief. 4 months young is, in my opinion, there's way more foundational stuff that you need to be doing with a puppy that young before you add the e-collar. And before anybody asks me what's the age to use the e-collar, it's about training progression for me, right? It's about training progression for me in that, hey, like, we need to accomplish certain things on the leash before we worry about moving the dog to off the leash, right? And the e-collar, by the way, yes, ultimately you go off the leash, but the best way to train with the e-collar in the beginning is with a leash on the dog, right? And a lot of people miss the foundation. They think of training, and this is why a lot of the misinformed fools that you see commenting in this video or in all my other stuff, right? What they do is they don't know about the e-collar. They think, the people with the strongest opinions about e-collars are people that have never trained with them. So they think e-collar, the way you do is you put it on the dog, and every time he's bad, you just light him up, right? And that's what you do with the e-collar. That's how you train with it. That's actually not at all how you train with it, and that's certainly not how you would optimize performance with an e-collar. I had an idiot on one of my videos. Sometimes I see the comments on my videos. It pops up on my dashboard, right? And sometimes I read them, sometimes I don't. This one I happened to read. It was on a dog that was food aggressive. It was a Malinois that was a food aggressive. And it was a German Shepherd. She was really dog reactive. And I just showed the beginning where the dog was crazy reactive, and then I showed at the end where she was not reactive at all. It was like kind of a before and after little quick reel, right? So this idiot goes, I see the shock collar. You use the shock collar. Well, silly guy, right? if you look, the dog's being reactive with the shock collar on. So if I use the shock collar, why would all of a sudden the dog be displaying the behavior with the shock collar on, and then also at the end be wearing the shock collar, and now the behavior is different, right? Actually, that dog came to me they have already used the Ecaller. That is not at all how I corrected the reactivity. That is not how you correct food aggression. The amount of times I've seen people say, oh, you use the shock collar. Okay, so what you're telling me is the dog's being reactive. The dog's being food aggressive. You think I crank the Ecaller up and light him up when he's doing that? If you think that's going to work, right, I would say go ahead and do it, because I would like for you to be bit because you're that stupid and you deserve to be bit. And sometimes, nature has its own way of teaching you, why something might be a bad idea and why things are maybe best left to people that actually know what they're doing. But I don't want the dogs, obviously, to go through that unnecessary, stress. And by the way, I'm perfectly in favor of stress when it's applied intelligently and strategically towards a productive outcome for both the dog and the handler, right? But just needlessly shocking a dog or hitting a dog or doing all of these things that people do, of course I'm not in favor of that. It's not a good thing. Better Built Dog says, the dog doesn't lie. The e-collar is just a communication tool. When used right and the dog is fluent in the language, they love it. Very, very much so, sir. Which is why, my dog performs the way he performs, right? In the trial and out of the trial, right? Happy, happy, happy dogs, active, active, active dogs, right? So this is the big thing when you're, I wanted to show you guys, man, this escape. I love this escape. So this is my dog heeling to the escape. There's a helper there. He wants to bite the helper, and yet, there he is, fully under control. This is my medium drive dog. By the way, Hans Dieter, right? Those of you know he's a top SV judge, gave this dog a 95 at Canadian Nationals in protection. There's my low drive dog. You can't make this stuff up, man. Oh man, the back transport on this was fire. So the dog's supposed to is supposed to watch the helper, and then when the helper turns around to attack, you'll see the dog attack, right? Look at the control. The dog wants to bite the helper more than anything. And by the way, when I first got the dog, one of the reason he failed, he was with a previous handler. So he failed in his IGP3, the last trial, because he left the handler in this exercise. He just went and bit the helper. Not allowed. Dog can only go bite the helper when the helper turns. And the reason why IGP is such a wonderful barometer of success in training is because the dog is dealing with the highest level of competing motivation. There's nothing this dog likes more than to bite the helper. But he must control himself, right? Of course, in the beginning, we show him with the tools. Then without the tools, he must control himself. Look at the control. You see how the dog controls himself on my left leg, right? He's like, nope, nope, I can't go, I can't go. There's no e-collar on him. He has not been corrected in this field, right? Why is he controlling himself? Because now he understands. The communication was clear. I must control myself in order to bite this guy. Then he gets to bite the guy. Now here, he doesn't want to let go. I give the out command. Boom. Beautiful transition to the guarding. That was another problem he had. He didn't like to out, right? Again, this is why IGP is a fantastic example of real control, of real training, because the dog is dealing with the competing motivation of, the helper and protection. He really wants to bite this guy. He doesn't want to listen to me. He wants to go and do that, but he must control himself. He must utilize impulse control. Obedience is a different drive. The dog must utilize a different mindset in the obedience, right? Tracking, again, a different thing, right? So, IGP is a wonderful barometer of your ability as a dog trainer. And that's why I like doing it. It's very hard, it's very difficult. And at the top level, man, the dogs and the training is second to none. In my opinion, it's the most difficult dog sport in the world. Snape says, how to correct reactivity with a prong. I typically don't do it, right? I typically don't do it. May Stonegate says, can you give tips on a 6-year-old dog who aren't socialized, so they are nervous around new people? Yes, you need to neutralize the dog to people, right? You need to neutralize, sorry guys, you need to neutralize the dog to people, right? Your dog is worried, like something is going to happen, right? Like something bad is going to happen. Why would the dog be worried? Of course, because they perceive the possibility that this strange person is going to do something bad to them. So the first thing you do is you neutralize them. You say, listen, you cannot be reactive. Don't do that. Not allowed. You cannot be reactive. On the flip side, I'm not going to force unwanted social contact with this stranger. I'm not going to let them mess with you. I'm not going to let them hurt you. I'm not going to let them do anything to you. Don't worry about them. They don't, as far as yes, they're around, but they don't exist, right? Think of strange people as cars. Think of strange dogs like cars. There's cars driving on the road. Are you allowing your dog to go and like smell them, or are you trying to force your dog to go in the road to be close to the strange cars? No, right? Like it's dangerous. You know it's dangerous. So you just keep the dog away from him. And after a while, the dog learns, oh, it's a car. It doesn't mean anything. It's not good. It's not bad. We just do our thing and the cars do their thing and we don't have to worry. Should be the same with other people, right? Neutralization. That is the key to success with reactive and fearful dogs. So people, ask me, why do you like IGP so much? Because for me, it's the greatest test of a trainer. I know I can just train pet dogs and protection dogs till kingdom come. I can sell police dogs. I can do all of that. But for me, it's not just about making money. It's not just about having success. It's about challenging myself. It's about pushing myself and my training ability and my understanding of training and behavior to the very limit. And nothing will make you do that more than dog sport. That's why I encourage anybody who professionally trains dog, get involved in dog sport. It will make you a better trainer, right? Hugo Stocco says, what do you think about French ring? I mean, I think it's a cool sport. It's not for me personally. I do like how the decoy, esquives the dog and, makes it difficult for the dog to bite, and basically it's a competition almost between the decoy and the dog. I think that's cool. But personally for me, it's not the sport. I don't like the obedience in it. It's not enough. The obedience is kind of like functional. For me, that's not so interesting as what IGP is. But I mean, different strokes for different folks, right? All right, somebody else says, will we see more of Scooby on your channel? He is adorable. Maybe. You might. He's very cute. He's this guy's son, and he's already the same size as Chico. Scooby's going to be huge. Man, Scooby's got the eyes. When he looks you in the eyes, you see, man, there's a dog there. There's a dog there. Like, Scooby's going to be something. Anybody who wants a serious, extreme drive working dog, you get yourself a Scooby. You get a Scooby. I think Scooby is like, like I said in my Instagram, I'm letting everybody know he is for sale right now. We haven't put too much work into him yet. If somebody wants a PSA dog or a really cool protection dog or a police dog, Scooby's the dog, man. He's going to be a really, really good dog, really strong dog, dominant dog, not for a beginner. He's a lot, as you would expect a Chico Juice puppy to be. Man, special dog and big, good looking. If I was going to really like do PSA or something, I might think about keeping him. All right, what else we got here? Lynette says, just started watching. I have a question regarding training and bite work. How do you handle training with female dogs coming into heat? It depends. Female dogs tend to be a little bit more sensitive. So you have to determine, okay, is this sensitivity going to create maybe some unwanted associations with the dog where maybe they get more afraid or more stressed than they normally would be? If it's that type of dog, maybe just take them off of the training until they're, past it. Maybe do something low impact like tracking or something maybe a little bit easier, just happy, fun for the dog. Don't put any pressure or anything like that. Wait till the dog's through the heat and then move forward. Lynette says, someone told me that no dogs who are in a household with a female that is emitting hormones prior to actual heat can go to training. Not true. My dogs do it all the time. Shada says, I laughed with pain, fear, violence. Humor is a good approach. Trying to argue, defend, or explain insinuates more conversation is needed. Less talk, more training from the critics. Exactly. You know, we need to start teaching these people. Like, there's a certain person on the internet with mental health issues that's well known in the dog training space. I'm not going to call him a dog trainer. Small individual, small fella, right? You guys might know what I'm talking about. He's got a little bit of the crazy in his eyes. He promotes this force-free dog training idiocy, right? You can't train a dog. You can see it if you watch him training the dogs, right? People are like talking to him. Ivan like tried to have him on his podcast. Of course, this dude didn't want to be anywhere near a real dog trainer like Ivan, so he just kind of ducked and weaved and did everything he could to avoid being on that podcast and managed it. But like an example, right? Like, why are we talking? We should be making fun of this person, right? I'm all for ridiculing ridiculous ideas. I'm all for ridiculing ridiculous people, right? Shayna's right. When you try to talk to them and explain and reason, these are not reasonable people. These people they're operating on the level of an emotional child. Are you trying to have a logical conversation with an emotional child? Of course not. You're not gonna have any. There's not gonna be any positive impact, right? You're just being silly. We're just gonna treat you like the silly fool that you are, and we're gonna move forward, right? Logical conversation is reserved for logical people that are deserving of it, that are actually honest in their intent to exchange ideas and elevate the best idea to the top. These people are not that. Do I train pregnant female dogs? Yes, I do. Hugo Stocco says, should Chico go to Street League 2025? It's not my interest. And somebody also asked me about KNPV. KNPV is a sport in Holland. It's not for here in Canada. It's not for the US. So I have no interest in it. I do think, for me, KNPV, I'll tell you what, KNPV for me is like suited IGP. You can push the dog to a higher level in KNPV in terms of the obedience and the protection. You can really open the dog, and you can show a change in drives there, the guarding. You can show like a lot of intensity in the box exercise, in the reverie in the woods, all of that. They have some really cool exercises. I would do KNPV if it was more popular. Like if people did it widely here, right? As opposed to PSA. For me, if I have to pick between KNPV and PSA, I pick KNPV. But of course, there's not. I always will pick the sport that has the most competition because, like I said, I like to push myself. I like to compete, and KNPV is something exclusively for Holland, right? But I do like it. I think it's cool. Snape says, yeah, but which tool do you use to neutralize? You're talking about neutralizing a dog to strange people, strange dogs. You don't use tools to neutralize. The problem is you're thinking about dog training in terms of tools, not in terms of methodology. So I'm not going to say, hey, put the prong collar on your dog, do this, this, this. Put the e-collar on your dog, do that, that, that. Because that's not actually going to get you anywhere productive. You need a holistic training approach. Shameless plug time. ShieldK9Online.com. I've got holistic training approaches for everything from your puppy to your pet dog to dog sport, whatever it is that you want to do. It's all on there, and you guys can, learn how to use tools properly as a part of a training approach. You guys can learn how to play with your dog. You guys can learn how to teach your dog everything from an out to protection work to obedience to all that stuff. Let's see here. So guys, I think we're going to start wrapping it up. There is one thing I would like to say. This is very true. Okay. Antarctic Echo says they can be dangerous though by their infection of those who can change laws. Crazy flocks to crazy. Yes, you're absolutely correct. So they do use their emotionalism, and they have successfully used their emotionalism in Western Europe to change laws and to get certain things banned. And the reason why they've done that is for two reasons. So number one, again, it's an emotionally pleasing argument in the sense that Ecaller, electric collar, doesn't sound good to the average person that doesn't know anything about dog training. They think, oh yeah, they're shocking the dogs. Of course, that's not really quite how it works. You know, there's a lot more that goes into it, right? But, you know, to the uninformed, it's like, yeah, that we need to not shock the puppies. We like puppies. We like dogs. We don't want to shock them, right? And that, again, it's an emotionally appealing argument that if you don't really understand anything about the complexities involved in training a dog or training anything, really, to be quite fair, you know, it would be kind of the same thing. First, let me finish this thought. So it sounds reasonable, and that's why it's easy to get bills like this passed in smaller countries like, you know, those in Western Europe. They're already kind of very left-leaning places and very kind of woke ideology, you know, already. Those types of places, you'll see it's passed. More traditional places, more conservative places, like Eastern Europe, for instance, these rules are not passed, right? Asia, Middle East, India, you know, the United States in most places, Canada in most places, we're still more to the right, even though we see a lot of like kind of left-wing ideology here, we're a lot more to the right from a social perspective and from a, you know, just a fundamental political perspective than a lot of these Western European places, which is why these laws have not passed here yet. And I think the pendulum, to be honest, politically and socially is swinging back. So I think actually it might be a little bit longer before we see laws like this getting passed. That being said, places like Australia, right, like they had people in internment camps because they refused to take an injection that they didn't want to take. So much for body autonomy, right? Of course, places like this are going to ban an e-collar, right? They're going to ban you making posts on Facebook. They put you in jail for making certain posts on Facebook, right? Because it's hate speech, aka disagreeing with the government, right? And I'm making this political because it is, you have to understand that these ideologies are part of a political and social praxeology, right? It's an idealistic, it's not even idealistic. I would say it's a utopian ideology that has no bearing on the real world, that doesn't stand up to any reasonable level of logical cross-examination, right? But when you don't do that logical cross-examination, the laws pass, right? So the problem is in Europe, I find that it's funny, like a lot of the trainers that like I know in Europe or that I've dealt with in Europe, they're tough guys, you know, they're tough girls, you know, they're very realistic because they have to be realistic in order to be successful. They can't afford to engage in ideology. I'm talking about the successful ones. I know there's tons of like force-free there and positive only. They're not successful, so I don't pay any attention to them. I don't know them. I don't talk to them. But the successful ones. And the problem is, you know, these people also occupy positions in government. They occupy positions in police and military organizations. They occupy positions in many cases of great esteem because they've been successful. They've been the world champion. But they also have kind of like this culture of silence. Like they don't talk. You know, there'll be some like crazy woman spouting off about, you know, e-collars are terrible and abusive. And these guys will just kind of like be like, ignore this crazy person. You know, they don't say anything. They keep their head down. They don't make any waves, you know? And that's why things like this get passed. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, so to speak. And that's wrong. We shouldn't be, right? So this is why I'm fully in support of Ivan doing alternative studies. I'm fully in support of all the other dog trainers that are making like all of these, you know, online content to counter the narrative that, you know, things like what I'm doing, where I'm like, yeah, my dog's wearing an e-collar, he's happy, he's super obedient, he's super active, and look, this is also his performance without the e-collar. Oh my God, look, it's amazing too. It's a shocker, right? So we have to be doing things like this. I agree. But we also need to marginalize these people and ridicule them, because that works very well in the culture of ideas. It's not just always about sitting down and having a logical debate. It's also about marginalizing this mindset. It's like you're being a silly child. We need to treat you as such. And when necessary, we need to bring out the science, and we need to bring out the evidence to show that all the things that you're saying is not true, right? Release the Leash Dog Training says, hi Haz, I'm looking for my first working dog for dog sports. Do you have a litter coming up? Yes, I do. Stay tuned. I plan on doing 2 or 3 breedings in the next couple of months. Zesprick said, why are there so many CAMPV bloodline dogs about now? What about that sport produces the kind of Mals and Dutchies that people want? I think the sport has changed now with the laws in the Netherlands. So you're not going to see maybe those kind of Mals and Dutchies in the near future. But in the past, the reason why I was so successful in producing a great utility dog for police and military work was because what you have to understand about the CAMPV program is, remember how I said it's kind of like IGP in a suit? It's not. So PSA, if you have to understand PSA is more like, there's a lot more variability in the PSA routine, right? So you have to keep the dog a little bit in a lower state. The dog can't be at the highest level of arousal and drive, right? The dog has to be lower because they're not going to be able to handle all the variability. They're going to overstimulate. They're either going to bite a decoy when they shouldn't bite a decoy and fail, or they're going to miss a directional, or, because the drive will be too high. The arousal will be too high, and the dog's going to make a mistake that's going to cost you the trial. Don't get me wrong, you still need to have a high drive dog, but the training has to be in a lower drive. You can't make the dog full power, as I like to call it, where the dog is in the highest state of arousal and drive, because it's going to, in the higher levels, screw you over. Whereas in KNPV, they do know the exercises. They know everything that's coming, but the exercises also contain a lot of pressure from the decoy, right? So, and it requires a change of drive, like in the guarding and stuff like this. So that's why they're able to produce dogs that show, the dog has to show, the dog is graded on power, the dog is graded on commitment, and then kind of like from a tertiary, I'd say, perspective, especially when compared to a sport like IGP, it's graded on correctness. So the dog must be in control, but must show a lot of power and commitment, right? Much more so than in a sport like PSA, for instance. And you're able to do it because you know all the exercises that the dog has to do ahead of time. There's no variability to it, right? So you're going to drive the dog to the highest level of performance, but you're also going to retain control, and you're going to select for dogs that are going to be fast on the long attack, that are going to hammer the decoy, that are going to also be able to put up with, here's the other thing about CAMPV, they have very old school training methodology, right? Where they would have the dog next to them and they'd be, beating the dog upside the head with the other end of the leash to make the dog heel. Many dogs just couldn't survive that training. So naturally the sport, because the training was so harsh, because the training was so, let's say, brutal in a way, the sport itself selected for dogs that could handle that pressure from the handler, could learn through that pressure, stay productive through that pressure, not fall apart, but also still exhibit that power on the decoy and show that change of drives. I think that change of drives is so important, like in the guarding in CAMPV, where the dog has to run at the decoy, run behind the decoy, and engage in an active guarding behind him. Like, you don't see that change of drives exhibited in PSA for the most part, right? So I think that it created a really strong, all-around dog that had a lot of resilience, and physical and mental resilience, right? That allowed them to perform at that level under that pressure from both the handler and the decoy. And that's why I think the CAMPV program was so successful for so long, right? That's now changed. Of course, they don't train like that so much anymore. And you'll see, I already have been to Holland. I see them selecting dogs that are much softer, much less what I would call maybe mentally and physically resilient. And I think very slowly, the next 10 years, the CAMPV program is going to lose like 90% of the quality that it used to have. What else did I say here? Okay, guys. What else do we got? Oh, yes. How to treat a dog with high rank drive. You treat him with respect and smart handling. You don't put yourself in conflicting situations, especially ones that you can lose, right? Okay, guys. So I think I'm going to wrap this one up. You know, it's just important. You know, we got to fight fire with fire. We got to be. You know, we got to identify these people that bring forward these insane ideas that want to ignore, you know, reality, like Beryl over here, right? And they want to say that this dog is afraid, that this dog, they can do what this dog does, right? It's like, no, you can't. You can't do that, right? Or, you know, that the Ecaller for some reason is like this horrific, brutal tool of pain and cruelty. It's like, no, this is the most advanced tool in the application and release of pressure, aka negative reinforcement. It's more advanced than a leash. It's more advanced than an a prong collar, a choke chain, or any of the tools that we used in the past. It's significantly more advanced than a gentle leader, right? It's a tool that, in the right hands, can optimize performance at the very highest level. I've already talked about why I think that's very important. And it also, you know, we have to be clear, when we train dogs, we're not just training them to do things. We're training them to do things to the best of their ability and our ability. And we're also building more than just the dog knowing how to do something. We're building mental resilience in the dog. My training, the way I train a dog, right? I'm not just, oh, can he heel? No, I want him to heel in a state of full power. Can he lie down? No, I want him to lie down as fast as he possibly can, right? When he comes, I want him to come as fast as he possibly can. But the other thing that I want to do is I want him to be able to think through stress. I want him to be more productive in stress. I don't want him to shut down. I don't want him to fall apart, whether the stress is outside or the stress is inside. I want the dog to always be at his highest level of capability. And that should be anybody's goal, I think, when they're training their dog or their child, for instance. Like, I do things with my kids all the time to build their mental and physical resilience, right? So it's not just enough that they can do something. It's that they should be able to do those things in, you know, whether they're stressed or whether they're not stressed. Cigars out. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to wrap this one up. It was a pleasure engaging with all of you on this weekend, and I hope you enjoy the week. Happy training to those of you that are doing it. And remember, believe your eyes, right? Believe what the dogs tell you. They are